All right, awesome. So we're ready to get going on 105. Let's go take a quick peek at what it is we're trying to do and where we are. Currently where we are, we're error-free. We're on localhost. All looks good there. So let's go look at our target. What is our target? 105 here. We got some really cool things going on here. Refresh, we got that loader, the initial loader, and then we load a home page, and we actually put some click events inside there. So where do we want to start? I would say the first place that I would start is that loader and the let's just start with the loader and do some code cleaning. So let's hop into our index and let's just go to code view. And in code view, one of the things we want to do is go ahead and just get rid of all of our comments right now. We're going after some cleaner code, and we're going to keep a more thorough manifest. And when we keep a more thorough manifest, what that does for us is that allows us to just write more clear and concise code and help people. Commenting is still good, but in this case, because we're on this strategic lesson path, we have the opportunity to keep our code as clean as possible. Awesome. All right, get rid of that. The way we can clean our code is do a find and then go after the comment, and you can see now it's letting me know. So I'm going to clear that out of there. I'm going to clear that out. And let's see if we have any more. It said 1 of 3 at this point, I believe. No results, so that's good. So our code is clean, so let's save that. And let's go out to our local host and make sure we're not throwing any errors or anything. Good. All right, so I'm hopping back over. Cleaned up my code. I'll go ahead and hit apply source formatting. Let that take its way. And we're going to go after that loader now. And for that loader, what we really want to do is we want to put a div in here. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll leave a section out there. So if you notice what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and I'm just selecting between the opening element and the closing element of both sections. And then I'm going to just put in my code for my loader div. Basically, we're putting it inside of a section, and we're giving it a class of container. And then we're giving it a class of circle and wave. So we're basically nesting some page effects, which is pretty cool. Now, for that loader div, if we come out here and we go to our site and see what we've done at this point, localhost, clear cache, empty, what we can see is just collapsed. We haven't assigned any style to that loader div yet, and because we have not assigned any style to it, divs by nature just go ahead and collapse. So one of the things we want to do is make sure when there's nothing in a section that this doesn't happen. So we want to make our section a little higher. I want to mention that as I go. And then you'll notice the different class names of the loader div. It's in a container, and then we have class and we have wave. So what we can do at this point is open up our style sheet. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and we want to make some changes to the section. We want to add for the circle, and we're going to add quite a bit of CSS actually, and we'll talk about it in a second. Now what we've added, that's the section minimum height. So with the minimum height, it'll make that center white section just stay. And you can go ahead and explore. Here's the circle, the wave before and wave after. So we're actually duplicating the wave essentially. Then we actually see for the first time, for many of you, probably animation through CSS using keyframes, which is pretty cool. So if we go ahead and we save that and put it in there now and do a refresh. So now we can actually see our loader sitting in there. Reason we're doing that is that's just a random loader. If we wanted to really use it, we'd have to change colors. I'd probably just grayscale it, to be honest with you. But we just want something to let the people know that our page is loading and we have the gears on. But for the initial page, it's just kind of that content, and we'll let this evolve and grow as we go further. But at this point, we basically have our loader in. If we go and look at the example site, we can see when it first loads, there's our loader, and then it just disappears. So it kind of fills in this content area. It's a nice touch. So now we want to be able to get this content into our page, and we're going to actually learn about how we pull this from our WordPress website to our code. So let's go ahead, and I think what we'll start out with is our app.js. And inside our app.js, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a function. And that function is going to be called getPage. Now what's cool about getPage is this is the function that we're going to use to make an AJAX call to grab our page, whatever page it is that we want from our WordPress site. It can be awfully confusing, but honestly, at the end of the day, what's really cool about it is if you paste this link into your site, what you'll get is all your different pages that are in your WordPress website. And you could grab them all. As a matter of fact, we might decide to do that and build our menu right off of the pages. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to look for home, right? So the way we would find that in our is find Control F and then home, and you can actually find it in here. And what you'll see is what's cool is this is a link to your WordPress website to the page, and this is what we call a slug, which you'll see is used at the end of all links. And then down here, what you find under links is self, collection, about, author, replies, version history. You can actually get a history of it to the next page. That's so you can put next and back buttons. The one that we want to find now is if we look at it like this, if we wanted to depend on nested pages, we could say parent, but honestly, all we want is the page. And so when we click on it, you see that it puts pages and then the page ID, and we actually have access to all the content inside of our page. And actually, I don't think that's the page that we're looking for. I think the page that we're looking for is this one here. And so what we can do is just go ahead, take that ID and paste it in there behind pages, and we can say. So that gives us the home and the page, and then all the content that's in the page, which we can see that's our content that we entered in, and also an excerpt if we choose to use it. And so what we can do now is come back and take a look at that function, and you can see that's what the AJAX call is to that page, to our REST API. And then what we're doing is, on success, we're declaring a variable called page build and giving it a value of null so that we can start building on it. And we come in and we basically, because we want a section, we know that we're going to, where we're going to replace is content, which is inside the main div. And that's where the sections are. So what we'll do here is put the content that we would have in there. And you can see we're taking the data that we get back from the AJAX call and content rendered. And what that gives us, if we come out here and we look, is content rendered. And so that gives us our HTML that we need to complete the page. So in order to get that home page, we're going to save that function. We'll talk about it more as we go. You can see these are just animation steps that we're putting in here to bring the content into life. So then the next thing that we need to do is when the page loads, we need to be able to tell it to get our home page. And we know that our home page is 314. We just saw that if we go out to the site and we take a look. 314. Let's see. I got conflicting numbers here. Oops. 314. There we go. And so that's actually calling our home page the IOP. I was looking at the wrong home page. My apologies. The IOP, and that makes more sense. Look, structure, everything we talked about is still the same. It's just the content is a little different. So at this point, what we can do is take that 314, and we can come into up here after the menu slides down before the loader. So we're doing it inside our init. We're going to call the home page, and we want to do it before we hide our loader and after we make our navigation. So we simply just get page. We're sending the ID of 314. We're calling the getPage function. We come down. That 314 comes through here, gets appended, and the AJAX call is made, and we take the information and we fade out the content div, and and then we replace the HTML and with it, and then we feed it back in, and then we get rid of the loader div. So let's save that and let's see if that works. Go to localhost. And there we go. So we've now pulled our content in. We have this function that we can use by passing an ID along and telling it what we wanted to get, what page we wanted to get. And so what's really cool about that is now we have an opportunity to go ahead and link all these menus. If you look with our menus, we actually have our object ID is actually the page ID that goes in that call. So we already have access to that information, so now we can do something with it. So what can we do with it? Well, the first thing we need to do is take this piece of information from the in the menu builder when we're building the menu and provide a way for the link to include that page ID. And the way that we can do that is we take our current link that we have now, and what we want to do to it is add a data attribute called PGID, and then actually put that value of that object ID, right there you go, inside there along with the title, and make it so that now we have something to attach to. And the reason that we do that is because then what we can do in our event listener, so when we actually tell our page to the browser to listen, we build this slide down. And so before we actually do get home page, we're going to add in one more activity for the browser. We're actually going to put this little bit of code in here where we're telling it to add an event listener to anything in the nav that's an LI that has an anchor tag. And we're saying listen for clicks. And when you hear a click, go ahead and call the getPage function and pass the attribute. If you remember, we made that data at dash page ID attribute that we put that value in down here. And that's what we're doing, is we're using this, which is the object that was passed in. And so the object is actually the link itself. So we have access to all the information that's in the highlighted area, and data page ID is one of them. And so what it will do is it will call the getPage function and pass the ID. And of course, when the getPage function, it just replaces the content area of the HTML. So now, if we come back out and we take a look, we might have a little bit of magic in our links. There's our get page load, and we're loaded, which is beautiful. If we hit love, we pull that data straight from our WordPress website. Pretty amazing. All right, so one last thing that we're missing is if you look in the sample site, you'll see that when you hover over the logo, the inside out logo, and you click on it, that will bring you back to that home page that we created. We're not putting home up here in the menu. We're using it as just our landing page, and we'll call it when necessary. You might have some blank pages too. Be careful, because if you don't have any content in the page, you're not going to see anything. And so make sure you put some content in your pages so you can appreciate it. But anyway, let's get back at this link and the logo. The way we want to do that is, first thing, we'll go to our HTML. So we'll go to source code and index, and we'll come up here to our H1. And what we're going to do with our H1 is we're just going to add an onclick event to it, so that it'll call page 314, right? And that's the only thing we really did to it, is add that code right there. And so when it's adding an event listener right to the element. So if we come back out and we refresh, you see everything's working. And it's working, but it doesn't appear to be a link to people. We know it's a link because you click on the element and you go there. So the way that we can take care of that, the best thing that we can do with that is go ahead and give it a little bit of style. And I think since this is in the very top, we're going to go ahead and add some style right above the nav. And also, while we're up there, let's go ahead and clean up our CSS a little bit too. So let's go to our styles.css. Let's scroll to the very top. I'm going to replace this CSS document with our document note. And then I'm going to assign a class. Well, not even a class. I'm going to go target the logo via ID, and I'm going to tell it to use a cursor or pointer, which will give it that little finger effect. And then when I hover, I'm just going to take the color off slightly. So FFF is white, so I'm going to come just a little bit off of white because it is white. And if I come back out and I clear my cache, empty cache, and I reload, and let's go to love, just make it fun, and you can kind of see that little bit of gray go in there, and when I click on it, it works, and I have my pointer, and that is awesome. So I believe that wraps that up. But let's go ahead and let's just clean up our code a little bit. Let's get rid of comments and stuff like that. We just want nice, clean, straight code for now. We'll leave that up there. That's fine. Do a format, apply force, save. Let's go look at our JS. And let's clean that up a little. I'm not a fan of spaces in my code. It's a personal thing. I read it better this way. And so I'll go ahead and clean that up. I'm just going down through and removing my lines. That's it. A lot of times I'll take this out to a text editor and just say remove empty lines, text wrangler, but there's not that much code, and I'm kind of taking a look at my code as I'm going down through, doing a little bit of what we might call a code review, just making sure it looks good. I don't see any glaring errors or anything of that nature. Yeah, everything looks good. I'm going to single space my functions, and then I'm going to curse my code by hitting code formatter, which often can be very disappointing. It has random effects. And it looks like we're good there. All right, cool. Double checking one thing, then I think we might actually be able to go ahead and wrap it up. Let's change this up here. just then we know the version of our file and we're good to go. So at this point, we'll go out, we'll do one last test on our local host, do a refresh, loader's working, menu's in, content's there, header shrinks, actually have the animation going on down here all through Bootstrap, temporary images, animation going on up here. If I go ahead and I click on who, gears work, page loads nicely, section is no larger than 450, I believe we set it at. Let's check our inside out. And we got some carousel things going on, but I think that's okay. I think we'll worry about that another day, because it appears to be working just fine. It took us to our home page. All of our JavaScript seems to be working just fine. So I think we're ready to go ahead and commit and save our changes. And so let's make sure that we've closed out all of our files, and we are on our 105 branch. We can see that. So let's go into Commander and let's do a get status, and we can see our changes are there. So we want to go ahead and add them to the staging area of Git, and we'll run another get status, and we can see that we're added. So at this point we're going to do a git commit with a message, and we'll put in here added click event functional functions and listeners, added preloader for home page on initial load, and updated the links in the menu and logo to call page. Content from our WordPress API. We'll go ahead, put that in, run another get status, and everything looks great. So the next thing we have to do at this point is we can see our updates registered in Dreamweaver as well. Next thing we have to do is go ahead and do our merge and our push to production. So I will see you in the next video.